before I was saved, life was dark. I was in a desperate need to find meaning in my life, and I filled that with a lot of New Age thought and Eastern thought and Buddhism and Baha'i and whatever the newest religious philosophy was, and I just kind of pick and chose what I thought worked for me.
So for me, the darkest point for me without Christ was trying to make a marriage work that was just that just had everything working against it without Christ. You know, by the grace of God, before we were saved, April had suggested marriage counseling, and you know, me being my prideful self, decided, you know, I didn't want any part of that.
We again had a lot of idols in our life, that one of those being ourselves. You know, whatever felt good in the moment, not thinking of long-term damage done to us or our marriage or our family, we did it. You know, it was basically about short-term gratification to fill that hole in our lives and to fill that hole in our marriage. And that just lets the darkness eke in more and more and more. And it just, I always talk about, there was kind of a black cloud that kind of hung over our house. I did everything I could, I did everything I could to push him away from me, because that's just what I expected. I felt very unlovable and very unloved. Yeah, during that time I was looking for, I personally was looking for some joy and some fulfillment and some happiness, but I was looking for big picture answers as well. I was looking for, what was my purpose? Why am I here? What is this all about? And what was I did believe I was created, but what was I created to be and do? The turning point was, we had moved into a small town outside of Austin, and moved next door to an old church. And we used to joke that when we moved in, we shared a chain link fence with their parking lot. In our backyard, we joked that we were going to go in the backyard and crank up the rock and roll and dance and drink beer as the Christians go into church. And the turning point was when our daughter Riley wanted to make friends and wanted to go to the church to make friends, and we got invited to a group for mothers of preschoolers over there. So I started going because I'm very social and I need people in my life, and I didn't know anybody in this town, and I started hearing the gospel through that. Made some friends in that group and realized that how dark my life was. And after a couple of months of going to that group, one day I came home, and my friend had given me a Christian music CD to listen to, and I've been listening to it in the car. And I came home, went inside the house, and just dropped to my knees in the middle of the house and said that I can't do this anymore. And Jesus, take this darkness from me. And he did. I mean, that moment, he took it from me and saved me. And that black cloud that I talked about was gone.
Because I saw that it was important enough to her to tell me this, and that, you know, it was worth giving it a chance and a look, and just kind of talking to her about it. I just noticed her, seeking out the Word and just kind of telling me different things about what it means to be a Christian. I was almost kind of hurt by the change, in a sense. It's kind of it was strange, because I knew that it was good, and I didn't want it. For me, it was, getting to see God's work in my own family bring me to that point, without fully realizing what was going to happen next, I just got up, went to April, and I told her that I wanted to be baptized with him.
And right there, when you came to me and said that, on that same spot on our living room floor where I prayed to Jesus to save me, we got down on our knees and prayed for Jesus to save you. I need Christ because I am a wretched sinner and I'm completely lost without him. He is my source of joy, my source of awe and wonder. He gave up his life for me. He is my everything. He is the pinnacle of what my life is. And everything works better because of him. Everything works because of him. All good things are from him.
God chose to save me. And because God has been so gracious at every step of the way to put us in people's paths that have more knowledge about him than we have, and that I'm just able to keep going, and that accountability is there, and there's people there that care about us. And my wife is just so encouraging in that there's just no other way to be, and that's what Christ has done for me.
Having that group of believers that is a fellowship with us, to share with us in that, to keep us accountable in hard times, and to rejoice in the blessings of our life has been incredible. I feel like Christ is leading me in the direction of less judgment and more love. The last thing that Christ said before he ascended into heaven was the Great Commission, which is, go therefore unto all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. He also tells us that the greatest commandment is to love God, and second to that is to love your brother as yourself. And in doing that is to care for others. It's hard at times to love our brother as ourselves, because we are still in the world and we are still battling our own flesh. But the Bible tells us to do that, and the gospel implores us to do that. And I have to truly take the words of Jesus seriously. If you're hurting in your marriage, if you're hurting, period, seek Jesus. It is just, there is comfort there. Seek believers, seek a Bible-believing church. Just go listen. Just go sit at the back and just listen to what they have to say. Ask questions. Make sure they're preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is where you find your hope. That is where there is joy. There is ultimate freedom. I'm a control freak. I get it. But I have more freedom in following Jesus Christ than I ever had in following my own wants and desires. If I could go back and tell myself advice before I became a believer, I would take that hurt, broken girl and tell her that your past is not defining what your future is, and that Jesus covers all of that sin and all of that wickedness, and he makes it white. And he makes you clean, and he makes you pure, and he loves you no matter what. To you wives out there that are feeling unappreciated and not and taken for granted, and there is no hope, and you're bogged down with life and children, there is hope in Jesus, and there's freedom, and there is joy. And seek him. Seek out the gospel. Seek out a church that preaches the gospel, because there's freedom in that, and there's hope in that, and your marriage can be restored, and your relationship with your children can be restored.
To the men, that pride that wells up inside of us, the feelings of inadequacy if we don't do it all by ourselves. The only way that those things can be put into perspective is through Jesus' power.